Howdy guys, Attorney Walter Hnot. Let's get right into the topic of the video. Specifically, can the Social Security Administration erase your work history? Or put another way, can they delete portions of your work history? And it has been, it seems like to me, getting worse and worse and worse with the amount of people who have been reaching out to me specifically asking, hey, what the heck is going on? I don't have as many quarters of coverage as I should. I have a, alleged onset date issue, etc. So we're going to get right into the heart of the matter of whether or not the SSA can do this. So first off, people have been claiming that the SSA has erased their work history. This is particularly scary because it would hurt your date last insured for Social Security disability insurance benefits. In fact, if they remove enough work history, you might not be able to have your 40 quarters of coverage for retirement. So basically, this means, when this comes to Social Security disability insurance, the disability aspect of the program, that if you don't have enough quarters of coverage, AKA, put another way, enough earnings where you paid taxes on it recently, then that could be a bar to you being able to get Social Security disability insurance benefits. Put another way, disability benefits, which means you'd be stuck with SSI if you were eligible. Now, this is a tricky situation. I've seen things in this field, in this situation, the category of it, that didn't make sense when it occurred. But here is the way it's supposed to work. Here's the way it's supposed to go. And I'm going to explain to you some of the things that I've seen throughout the years and why I sat back and said, holy cow, this is incredibly bad. All right. So the SSA is not really in charge of your earnings history and the records that go along with it. They can add things in the sense of, supplemental submitted to the IRS, but at the end of the day, the IRS is really the one that's in charge of your earnings history. Now, the IRS has this thing called the master earnings file. And that master earnings file is basically this giant document, okay, with data on it about where you've worked, when you worked there, how much you earned per year, how many quarters of coverage you got, all that stuff. Now, with that said, people are saying that the SSA has deleted or erased their actual work history. Now, here's the thing. The SSA does not really have the capacity to erase your work history. What they have the capacity to do is to decertify some sort of job on your work history and then supplement that over to the IRS, who then takes appropriate action. Usually what happens is this. When there's a problem, you can usually fix it using basically an IRS form. Now, this IRS form that I've got right here is it's a simple. Well, I mean, it's not that. It's none of the IRS forms are really that simple, but it's a W-2C form. You can submit it to the IRS with the hope of correcting some sort of problem. Now, it looks like this. It's not crazy or anything. It's you correcting the record, right? Having evidence, submitting it, all that jazz. Now, with that said, and I want to make this very clear, sometimes that works. Sometimes that takes care of it. Sometimes that gets it all done, makes it easy. A good example where that form can be used is to correct the record and you would use a supplemental form as well for fraud. But let's say somebody claimed earnings on your record, right, that weren't actually your earnings. In the, certain types of communities, it was very prominent. There was a lot of it where basically somebody would go to an accounting firm, and that accounting firm, a little doc in a box setup, would go ahead and claim a lot of earnings. And then they would get a refund check. They would take a large portion of the refund check and then give the rest of it to the person that was, basically part of the scam. Sometimes the person who was injured by this knew what was going on. Sometimes the person injured by this did not know what was going on. The bottom line is that fraud is the big factor. Fraud is where the Social Security Administration may go in and decertify some of your earnings, thereby reducing the amount of quarters of coverage you have. Now, let's talk about that real quick. There are many types of fraud that can occur with this stuff. The most common types of fraud are where you basically, claim that you're doing one thing and you're doing something else, where you try to get additional tax benefits or tax quarters of coverage to assist you with the SSA. And as a result of that, what happens is the IRS will receive the information. Then you'll say something to a doctor, or you'll claim something on a form, or you'll just say something somewhere and it gets recorded and gets submitted and somebody looks at it. And then all of a sudden they've got you because there was a federal record, they created a write-up, and now there's a problem. And so what I always tell people is if you need to get more earnings to get a date last insured farther into the future, go get a simple basic job where somebody's paying you to do something easy, But the problem with that is, that you run into is a lot of people, people don't have money right now to even just pay the taxes on like $6,500. And B, a lot of these little jobs, the amount of work that you have to do them is much higher now. Back in the day, they weren't trying to put 20 pounds into a 5-pound bag like they are now. Put inflation on top of that, you've got a unique, tough situation. All right, so let's talk about this real quick. They have this master earnings file data. Now, when they go to change your earnings, when they go to essentially decertify these earnings, what happens is you have certain rights about notice, rights about submitting things, timelines, etc. So if you go to section 422.125, it's one of those examples of those. I'll just read a little bit of one so you kind of know what's going on. Section F, notice to individual of adverse adjustment of his account. Written notice is given to an individual or his survivor in any case where the Social Security Administration adversely adjusts the individual's self-employment income. I'm doing self-employment income on purpose because this is usually where the fun happens. And then after this, we're going to talk about this is how it's supposed to happen. And then we're going to talk about what I've seen happen. Okay. Where subsequent to the issuance of a statement of earnings to an individual, an adverse adjustment is made of an amount of wages included in the statement. Written notice of the adverse adjustment is given to the individual or his survivor. Written notice of the adverse adjustment is also given to the survivor if the statement of earnings has been given to such survivor. Remember, this is all legal, so it's not going to read easily or sound fun, but it's all notice stuff. You get notice when they intend to do this. The individual or his survivor is requested to notify the Social Security Administration promptly if he disagrees, and he is informed that the adjustment will become final unless he notifies the administration of his disagreement, if any, within 6 months from the date of the letter, or within 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days after the year to which the adjustment relates, whichever is later. All right, so bottom line is this. This is not a good situation for people, and it usually pops up in fraud situations. Now, I want to point out a couple of things. When I work with the SSA at the hearings, what I look at specifically at the hearing level, what the IRS sends, the Social Security Administration, are a couple of forms: the detailed earnings query, the summary earnings query, the certified earnings query, and the new hire earnings query. These are the things that we use as part of an actual Social Security disability adjudication. And what they are, and I'm just going to go through them one by one, is essentially the detail. Wow, Benny Hill, thank you so much. I love it. Love the little lemon dude. Very cool. Thank you. Benny Hill donated $9.99. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Also, and I didn't get a chance to say it in the very beginning of the video, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving. I know things are tough right now. I know financially, going to the grocery store is like one of the horrible things that we have to deal with this ridiculous inflation. I get it, but thank you for being a part of this channel. And thank you for being so cool and helpful. And also thank you to the people who recognize this channel as something that's unique. It's not just another one of those like fourth stimulus, Thanksgiving check, Christmas check, channels. In fact, now I have to do videos explaining what those actually are, because when people talk about them, they sell them as these like nationwide, everybody's getting one. They're not. They're all just one state is basically using the funds given to it by the federal government as part of the prior acts during COVID to release funds as they see fit to the general population, but it's state-based. So like when you're sitting there like, there's, it's turkey, stimulus is coming. Oh my goodness. It may, if you're in the proper state. If you're not in that state, it's not coming. All right, so let's get right to this, guys. The detailed earnings query. The detailed earnings query goes through year by year the business or its payroll company, basically the address, how much you earned there, and just little details like that. Nothing too fancy. It's usually split up into two sections for types of earnings. The summary earnings query. The summary earnings query is one of the things I look at first when I'm looking at a claim. The summary earnings query gives like a really miniature little, graph. Well, it's a timeline, right? But they're just kind of lined up years, right? And right next to each year is the total amount of earnings. It's just a summary. It's quick. It tells me very quickly what are my years that I need to watch out for. When can I move the date last insured? When's the last earnings period? All that stuff. When did this claimant go over substantial gainful activity? The certified earnings query is more about the earnings that were certified and quarters of coverage that you earned, the 4 of them, during that potential year. And it will say like, Y, NNY, or, whatever. But basically the Y is the yes. And sometimes I've even seen them say C and NC or whatever. But the C of the 4 represents a quarter of coverage. The Y represents a quarter of coverage, or I've seen a Q there as well. But usually, basically, obviously the no means you didn't earn a quarter of coverage in that year, which means you didn't work and pay taxes on those earnings and have enough work to go ahead and equate to basically a quarter of coverage. So that's the certified earnings query. The new hire earnings query is like the past 2 years where you've worked, what you earned, things like that. They, get the most up-to-date information directly from the Social Security or directly from the IRS, so that when we sit there to do the Social Security disability hearing, we know exactly what jobs you've been working at, what you've been doing over the past 2 years. And it's very recent. It's very like what's going on within the past couple of months. And the judges use that to say, okay, well, this person's claiming that they're super disabled, but the past 6 months, they've been earning, $4,000 a month doing this job full time, yada, yada. Okay. Now, there are other forms that we interact with, but those are the most important ones. And I want you to be aware of what they are: the detailed earnings query, the summary earnings query, the certified earnings query, new hire earnings query. If I summarize them in like a 1-word phrase, the detailed earnings query is more detailed about where you worked, when you earned it, and it's split up as to what you earned at each job in that year. The summary earnings query is just how much you earned per year. Certified earnings query, how many quarters of coverage did you earn in those years? And new hire earnings query is basically what have you done within the past 2 years. That's what they are. Now, as you guys know, there is basically what's supposed to happen, right? And I've read you some of that, where they're going to potentially decertify your earnings. The SSA can't erase your work history, but they can go in and basically decertify something that they can use for your benefit. And what we're talking about here, just to summarize down, is the more earnings you have on the record, the more quarters of coverage. The way it affects you is that it potentially could mean more money per month on retirement, on Social Security disability insurance benefits. And it could also mean a more favorable alleged onset date for your claim, which is incredibly important for disability claimants. Now, let's talk about this master earnings file data, and then I'm going to go into what I've seen that doesn't make sense that's happened. Just a couple of notes specifically from the conclusion of the SSA.gov policy docs section, specifically on Social Security Administration's of master earnings file and the background information. Notes: IRS tax data are governed by Section 6103 of the Internal Revenue Code. Okay, SSA can use it only to record wages and cannot share it with any other federal agency. So, an example of limitations of who can do what, who can send information where. Number 2, and I think this is even more important for you guys to think about. Another note, number 2 on here, is some earnings data derived from the MEF, which is their master, financial thing that the IRS sends to the SSA of everybody's earnings. So some earnings data derived from the MEF are available only to a restricted set of researchers. That's your top accountants. That's your Stephen Goss at the SSA, people like that. While other earnings data are more widely available. Now, here's what you need to know about that. This earnings data is the key to unlocking essentially a lot of things. What is the maximum amount that we should actually be getting based against a study of the increase in inflation? So if you know what everybody's actual earnings are and all the data from it, And then you can look at basically a real true inflation metric where you get a bunch of top mathematicians together to do a statistical review to see how our cost of living adjustments are way too low. Look, everybody knows 2022, we saw inflation 20 to 30%. Easy peasy. They're giving us 8.7, right? So everybody knows the COLA isn't right. Everybody knows the COLA isn't just. But you would need this right here, this master accounting of all of the different work history that basically, the IRS can send over. And, master earnings file data that's like the key document. You need that, and you need the study of essentially what the actual proper way of calculating inflation is to win a lawsuit, to get people much higher benefits, increased monthly, and then basically increased more every single year because we would have a proper cost of living adjustment. Okay, so here's kind of the bottom line with this thing that you need to know. What have I personally seen when it comes to earnings getting removed? The only time I've ever seen earnings, getting decertified in a weird way, like they didn't follow the traditional policies, the SSRs, things like that at the SSA, was when the claimant got into a screaming match. And there's actually been a couple of these, but when the claimant got into a screaming match specifically about, their work history with that person. And what that person did was they kind of played a little bit of a game where they sent out notices that they were just, they're pulling this away and pulling this back and blah, blah. And the person who screamed at them didn't really get a fair chance to respond and things like that before they pulled back the benefits and did all these things. And so what I've started to really, and I want to do a video on it, but it's tricky because I have to find all these other things where I have proof of this or that or what they did wrong, yada, yada. But what happens is that the SSA has some gray area where, let's say that somebody's working with somebody and that person that they're working with, the claimant, is particularly hostile towards the individual. The expectation is that we expect that Social Security Administration employee to act kind and respectful to that claimant, even though the claimant is being aggressive, hostile, rude, etc. And the reality is that a lot of the times that's what happens, but sometimes that's not what happens. And sometimes there's little retribution things that the person can file, which then begin the process of removing the person's benefits or creating a situation where the person doesn't have enough quarters of coverage and it moves their date last insured too far back into the past to be able to use it to get onto disability benefits. And that could totally screw up a claim. And so I've seen that a couple of times where they begun that process and got it rolling. Now, ultimately, we get it fixed, but it might take 12 months to fix it, in which case it really screws up the claim. My point of this video is not to say the SSA does this kind of stuff on the regular. They don't. It's extremely rare. It's where somebody usually gets very angry. That's an employee. And, instead of just doing the right thing and cooling down, they take action against the claimant. Is this going to be more and more common going into 2023? I would say yes. And the reason why is that there's a lot of people that are new. They're untrained. When it comes to earnings history, it's very easy to begin the process of saying, what is this? Should this be allowed? Should we decertify it? And if you combine that with more CDRs occurring, which are the continuing disability reviews, and more CDI units being used, which are those investigative units that are basically hired on behalf of the SSA to go and follow the person around, I'm expecting that realistically, and in addition with that, the whole digital thing, people, claiming that they're doing this job when in reality they put pictures online of them doing something very different. Or they put pictures of themselves online frauding the government in some way, etc. So with all of those in mind, and on top of that, people are literally going to become more, I guess a polite way of putting it is food sensitive, because people are going to have less money and they're going to need more money to basically get more food because of inflation. And inflation is absolutely horrific. And I think the SSI people are going to be hurt the most when it comes to inflation because, as you know, when you get on SSI, for the most part, in most states, your food stamps are cut way, 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 way down. But I think what's going to happen is that food is going to become a luxury in the United States, which sounds very third worldy, but that is where we're headed. And I think that unfortunately, I know that the crops, and I was just in farmland like a month ago for an entire month. The crops just didn't materialize. It just wasn't a good year. I remember somebody said to me, well, with the prior president, what he had good rain years and blah, blah, blah. It's not about White House. Like when it comes to crops not growing, it's about like rain, you know what I mean? And diesel. It's about those two factors. But more so, the big problem was, everything was really expensive. And they couldn't treat the fields as well with the chemicals, with the manure, etc., to go ahead and get things to grow. So the bottom line is the chemicals are more expensive, the diesel is more expensive, but the big thing was not enough water. And because there wasn't enough water, we run into an issue of not enough bread, not enough, etc. And remember, the cows are eating this, all of this. So when it comes to meat is going to become a super luxury. Bacon is skyrocketing still when it comes to what its cost of inflation actually is at this point. So that's kind of the problem we're all running into with that. Now, with that said, this is Thursday. Every Thursday, we do go live and answer questions specifically for people who want to know things about Social Security. I hope that I answered that question well. It was not meant to be a giant review of the law and how it works, but I hope we answered it well. I'm going to set this device up real quick, get us set to go ahead and take some calls, then we should be good to go. Now, I'm probably going to be doing a shorter video today, so fewer calls. And the reason why is that it is ... Thanksgiving. So let's go ahead and get this thing started, guys, and get this ball rolling. So there's been a bunch of recalls on food, just like you said in the chat. There's been a lot of fields that basically they've had to just, scrap it or use it to feed the animals. So it's just one of those situations where things are not super dupe. Now let's go ahead. I'm going to put the phone number real quick into this real quick. Let's see. Now you can go ahead and call this phone number. And what will happen is, I just put in the chat section, it's the 407-279-1754. I guess I put a little thing in front of it. 407-279-1754. You can call me with any questions that you have, and we'll go ahead and run them and basically go through disability related topics. And I'll ring on this phone, and then we'll go through the process of it, get you guys some answers. And it is Thursday, so I understand a lot of people that usually want to call in don't think I'm even live right now, which is fine, which is good. Might make things easier. So if there's anybody that wants to call, now's the shot. Because what I'm going to do is, because it is Thanksgiving, if nobody wants to call in, I'm going to go ahead and end this video and then do another one on another topic that I think is important. So we got a call. Here we go. All right, guys, here we go. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions with you? And remember, would you like me to, remember, throughout this process, go ahead and use a fake name. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm calling for a friend. He's a veteran, and he was in for 40 years, but he was a prisoner of war, but the VA has declared him as being dead. And so he can't get any of his veteran benefits because they've declared him as being dead. And even though they've corrected it several times, they keep denying him benefits because it keeps coming back up that he's dead.
Okay. So when you say he corrected it, what does that mean? Like to what degree has it been corrected?
I guess he went to the VA and said that, I'm live and, I was never, he was prisoner of war during the Vietnam, I guess. And for some reason, the military had declared him as being dead during the war, and he was never dead. But he's, I guess, shown up and shown driver's license and things like that, but he's still having a hard time getting benefits.
All right. So in that case, you're going to reach out, and this is more of a VA thing than a Social Security Administration. But
sorry, I thought you did some VA too, right?
Yeah. So, but this particular situation, and I've seen this actually pop up both on the SSA side and the VA side. But the VA side, it's more common because let's call it like it is. The VA deals with death more often, but with the VA side, specifically, there's an Office of Inspector General, just like the SSA. And so what you're going to do is, it's Michael, I think his last name is Misal or Masal, but basically you're going to reach out to that group. They have a submit a complaint area, and you'll submit a complaint because they need to go ahead and send out a notification to any of the field offices that are going to be taking on and processing that. And that way, basically they can correct it at the highest level, because once they correct it at the highest level, or at least put in some sort of amendment to it where they see it, they know what to do with it and process it, it should be okay, because they're basically the attorneys on behalf of the highest individuals within the VA.
Okay, I will do that. Great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for everything you do. I listen to you all the time, and you're so amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do for everybody all across the country.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live. Remember to use a fake name. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions with you? Go ahead.
I have a question. My name's Stacy. I was in 2021. I was finally approved in May for SSDI, and I got my back pay. And I called to make sure because I never got a letter. And they said, "Yes, it's yours. The attorney's been paid." And I'm like, "Okay." I had to get an attorney, but they said they took the money out of that, my back pay, and gave it to the attorney. And I was like, "Okay." So in July, I got $2,000 this July extra, and I called them, and they were like, "No, it's yours. It looks like there was a mistake in the system." And I'm like, "Okay." So I spent it. Come September, they sent me a letter, and so they overpaid me. So I'd already spent that money, and they wanted to take my whole check back from that. But I filled out that form online. I'm just wanting to know if I have any rights, because I called and asked, and I don't know who I talked to, but they said it was mine.
So to clarify,
I don't know.
They keep inside their record everybody that you speak with, because they have to keep a notation of, who you connected with at the SSA. So as long as you know which field office it was, or what phone number you kind of reached out to, which isn't usually too hard to find because most people reach out to the same phone number when there's an issue. You should be able to. They should be able to find specifically who accessed your account, because they keep an access recall system, so they can look and say, okay, Bob or Sarah or Brittany basically accessed your account on such and such day and spoke with you about yada yada yada. So that's the first thing. Also, it's around $2,000 most of the time. Using a 632 for around $2,000, you can usually get that waived. So you should be okay with that. Now, the final thing is, if they did say that this is fine, and which in this case, they sent you money, and it was money that out of the traditional course of receiving disability benefits would not normally be sent, right? It was sent after a lot of the back pay was, basically sent out there. So this was a situation where, essentially you received it out of the normal course. You called them up, said, hey, and even if you can't prove with the recording that they said it's yours, you can prove that you called, which is really great evidence to say you were checking in. You know what I mean? And if there was a problem within that month, within the next 2, within the next 3 months, they would have gone ahead and said, hey, that's not your money. And you wouldn't have spent it. You would have just put it aside. So that's all great evidence to show why this should waive it. And this is a true situation based on your fact pattern that, you should be able to get a waiver of that overpayment to you, because bottom line, they gave it to you. It was out of the normal course. It was where you followed up. You basically did not receive notice. And how many months after you called them did they check in with you and give you an overpayment?
Well, I got the overpayment, and I called them that day. I never even got a notice. It was just in my bank account.
So when I
called.
Yeah, when you first called them, how many months went by until you got that overpayment? Like when you called them and said, hey, is this cool? Is this my money? And they said, yeah, it's your money. How many months went by until you basically got a letter or notification that you had an overpayment?
2 months.
All right. So, I mean, you're still in a good spot, because the bottom line is this. If you called them and you received it and they said, no, it's yours, there was a mix up, here you go, right? They should have been able to check the machine right then and there and correct it, or say, hey, give us a week, we'll figure it out. Let me go send it over to Jen or Bill or Bob or whatever in the payment processing group. So what you've got is a classic. They said it was okay. I didn't know any better. There was no negligence on my part. There was no intent to abuse or defraud. And for that reason, I would fill out that 632 and make those arguments, because you're strong here. They intended to give it to you. They gave it to you. They notified you that it was correct. And then they waited too long to basically get back to you to say, hey, it's not yours. And even at that point, you were notified directly from the Social Security Administration, from an employee of them, that those funds were yours. If that employee was incorrect, then you acted under the information that you were given by an official representative of the Social Security Administration. So you should be able to beat that without issue.
Okay. Now, one thing I had, because I sent that form in like right away as soon as I found out in September, and I called yesterday because when I logged into my Social Security, it said they were taking my whole December check for back pay. And I'm like, I'd never heard from them since I sent that form in. Well, the lady I talked to, they said they never got it, or it wasn't in my record. So I faxed one yesterday to them, and it said they received it. So I'm just kind of scared now because it doesn't seem like they're, because they lost the form the first time I mailed it. But she did put in there, like, they're not taking I do see that I updated now that it's on hold or whatever, that they're not taking my whole check next month.
So basically, here's the thing. You got to begin the dialogue, and the game they play is relatively simple. Thing number one, they call you, we got to get all the money. We're going to take it from the check. Okay. Well, we're not going to do that. I don't allow it. So then you go into well, how much can you pay per month? Nope, not okay. You need to get a supervisor. You get a supervisor, you say, look, they did this, yada, yada, yada. And remember, the proof that sets you free is on their side of the fence, which they have to provide to you, which was when you made that phone call. So I would push that.
Okay.
I would push that heavily to go ahead and get this whole thing waived. Because look, if you called them and they said it's not your money, right? Then it shouldn't have taken them 2 months to come back with an overpayment. They would have sent you a letter immediately saying, hey, send us this, send it here, send it in this special little envelope. So
right.
The bottom line is you got a 2-month bumper there, which helps your claim.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. That eases my mind a little bit, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatchamacallit, I will catch you a little bit later. Give us a call. Give us an update next week on Thursday. And then basically, if you do run into any snags, I'll kind of give you some direction from there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful night and a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, let me go ahead. I'm going to take the next call. Here we go. And hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name throughout this process. Also, remember to mute the computer. And also, would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you?
Just one sec. Sorry. TV. A specific question, because I know how much you love those.
You got it. Yeah.
I called you a couple weeks ago because I had an overpayment letter that I received.
Sure.
For myself and my daughter, and I filed the appeal and waiver. I did them at the same time because they said that if they deny one, then they can pick up the other one and maybe approve that. And then you had said that they usually waive overpayments if it's under 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually more than that now. Like, that was the golden rule back in like 2010, but now it's more like 1,500 to 2,000. But you got to remember too, and I've talked specifically with a bunch of the people that are in the division at the Social Security Administration that are handling overpayments.
Yeah.
Their bosses push them and push them and push them to protect the trust funds. So, it's this whole like, but the reality is this.
Because that's important.
Yeah, they make mistakes accounting-wise all the time. So it's not like we're talking about a squeaky clean situation where the SSA just let one slip out. No, this happens all the time.
They're worse than the mob.
I can't say whether they're worse than the mob or not, and you'd have to define whether you mean like the Italian, the Irish. But
I'd be very specific.
yeah, indeed. And to be honest with you, I look at the federal government as like a mob, like as it is.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like when you look at like California and the genetics of who's held what political office, it's mind blowing. Like you can see the whole family tree right there. Yeah, but
the Gambino family.
well, yeah, and also, yeah, I mean, the Pelosi's are related. There's the relations are. It's a huge tree.
They're in. They have to be though to do what they do. How are they going to make deals? How are they going to wheel and deal?
That's what it comes down to. The best wheeler and dealers are not the people in New York City, trying to make a sale, trying to do whatever. They are the people who, keep a seat, on Capitol Hill. They are the best that's ever been seen. They go and negotiate deals with other countries to allow us to put nuclear bombs in their country on a special piece of land that is considered U.S. territory, and allow us to keep it there and then do deals with them where we get the financial benefit of it. So, I mean, you want to talk about wheelers and dealers.
That takes an extra special kind of person. You just have to have a certain mentality.
Yeah. I mean, you want to, like, if you look at
like Nancy Pelosi, when she grew up, her father was in politics, and they had a favor list by the door. And it was a list her mother kept of favors, and favors that they doled out and favors that they were owed.
Yeah.
So as a child, she learned that.
And here's the thing, like when I look at like the best wheelers and dealers, like a lot of people watch Shark Tank, Grant Cardone, things like that. No, you want to see the best wheelers and dealers, you watch the politicians. And then when you want to see them get caught and have it not mean a damn thing, you watch the House and you watch the Senate on, these online recordings where you get to see them go through the whole process. You get to see the dirty laundry of these people. It is a
fly on the wall.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I never thought people could get away with things. And then I saw politicians and I said, damn, that's the best criminal there is. So yeah, indeed.
And then they make the law. So
yeah. And then they make the law on top of that. It's a beautiful system for some people, just not most people.
It really is if you're involved in it.
Right, exactly, right. So
if you're a part of it.
But
if
anyway,
you're on the sidelines, not so much.
Yeah, walk me through what happened with the overpayment. Where's it at right now? What's going on? Yeah.
So they said that I submitted everything at the same time, and they said that they got my daughter's, but not mine.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, and they said that I couldn't do anything about mine. They've already been taking money out, so there's that. Which I know there's got to be something I can do.
Did you mail it in, or did you fax it in? Like yours?
I was in the office. I talked to the guy. I filled it out. I filled out the waivers because he said I should do those too. So I did it all there. And I dropped them off there. So I'm probably on video somewhere dropping them. Not to go back and look, but I did both of them. They got my daughter's for some reason and not mine. Our names are very similar though, so that could be the problem. I'm still resenting doing that for our names, but they told me though her overpayment is not. They were like, yeah, we got it, but they're not waiving it because they didn't get the 8011 Form 8011 until October, and they won't go back. Well, they got the dates wrong. They put that I was living where I was from January when it was June. So that's adding like another 6 months of back payments. And I tried to correct the system multiple times, and they said they did, but they didn't. And then the other thing was, what was it? They kept saying that they were going to send the 8011 to my mother to fill out. She never received anything from them. So she had to go down there and they had to print one out for her to do. So they're saying that it's irrelevant from that time backwards, and they won't waive the overpayment or whatever. And the person that's handling it, they talked to him. They put me on hold and talked to him. He wouldn't talk to me, of course, but he said he was aware, and that it is what it is.
Okay, so just to summarize, they're claiming that they didn't receive forms in a timely manner. You're claiming that you were physically present, completed them there, and handed them to the person.
They got one set of the forms, my daughter's, but not mine, apparently. We both had overpayment. So
you filled out a set for your daughter and a set for yourself while you were there at the SSA.
Yes, sir.
All right. So if you did that, the 632 and the 561 forms that you filled out are not, well, the 561 form is super fast, but the 632 form takes a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
My question to you is, did he make you go sit back down on the seats, or did he make you, or did you wait there the whole time where you were filling them out with him? How did that work out?
I had already had some of the forms because I had another overpayment that I had started filling out, and he was going over my daughter's paperwork for a recertification to make sure I had everything in place. So I did that while he was.
All right. So you did it while you were sitting there with him, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you handed him the forms for her. He was starting to work on all those details. Then you started working on yours.
I did both. I did both of ours. He was going over her recertification paperwork. There was a lot of paperwork that I had to.
Did you?
And then I handed them both in.
Did you complete them? And did you hand them both to him at the same time, or did you hand him some and then some more once you finished the rest of them?
I handed him my daughter's paperwork for her recertification. He was going over that paperwork, and then I handed him her appeal and whatever the other waiver, and then I handed him mine. They weren't together. And then he said he took everything and he said he was going to go scan it. He was going back and forth scanning it.
Okay. There's a couple of things that could have happened here. Number one, it could be that he scanned it and uploaded it to your daughter's file. Did you have them search your daughter's file for the non-labeled forms?
I had asked them to check, and they did for like 2 seconds and said no, but I don't think they actually checked. It was just over the phone, and it takes them longer to type in my social security number. So
okay, so they said that
and that's I made a point because I was handing in a bunch of her stuff for her CDR, you know. So I was like, okay, but make sure this is separate because I knew.
All right, so you're certain you handed it to them, right? You didn't bring it home. You didn't. Take it home?
I'm positive. I'm positive. I have copies.
You have copies of them.
Yeah.
Were they
I made sure he made me copies.
It was made, so the copies were made by an SSA copy machine at the SSA office.
Yes. Because I filled them out there, so I didn't have copies of them.
Do they have the receive stamp on it?
I don't believe so. I don't think he did that.
All right, so we've got to prove that these documents were submitted, and we've got to prove that these copies basically came from an SSA copy machine. Is there anything on those copies that was added, or are they just pure copies of the original documents?
Is there anything that was added? How?
Oh, say it again.
Was there anything that was added? How do you mean?
Well, like, were there any marks, any dates, any like little additions, copied by, copied on, anything like that?
By me or by when he copied them?
When he copied them.
I'm looking right now. I didn't know if you meant like if I wrote on something.
No, and what I'm trying to find here is, are there any identifying
if
marks?
There's a stamp or anything that says that they actually touched it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the other side of the coin is, do you have access to a printer? Do you own a printer?
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you this. With the forms that he gave you, the original forms, were they a different color than white?
No, they were white.
Okay. Were the original forms printed out paper, or were they like, interconnected where, when you open it, there's a seam in the middle, like it's one big page that's been folded?
No, they were printed on like individual printer paper.
Okay. Do you have the forms with you there?
Yes, I'm grabbing them. That was my forest of trees that I killed. And What number? It's the 561.
Well, the 561 is the intent to appeal, which is important.
Yeah,
That's a
okay.
small one. That's
Yeah.
a one pager. The 632
In
is
the
a
book.
multi-pager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, 25th. Okay, what do you need me to look for? Anything?
Do you
that
have your copy
looks like-
there of the 561?
The long one?
Yeah, the 632. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So on that copy, what was the date you wrote on it?
That's 26.
Was that the date that you were there working on it?
Yes.
Does the pen
I
on
know
that one?
my daughter won the Halloween coloring contest, and I went to pick up her prize after.
Does the pen on that one look like the same pen on the other one that you filled out with your daughter?
What do you mean?
Well, look at it. If you look at the pen, right? If you got one type of pen, it writes one way. You got another type of pen, it
Yeah.
writes another way. You have copies, so I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You know, if it was it blue
No,
ink or
it's
black
like-
ink, and since it's a copy, was
No,
it
it's
lighter?
black. Black,
Black,
because it's a
okay.
copy.
So are these the same pen that you used on both?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Was this the pen provided to you by the SSA?
Yes, it was.
Cool. Was it one of those standard little SSA pens that you get when you're at the lobby entrance where you walk up to the window?
I believe it was one of those like kind of light blue ones. It was at the window.
Cool. So that's going to be your entrance to be your proof to show that you were present. You filled it out with one of their pens, and it's the same type of pen with the same sort of date that was filled out on that date and time. And you're going to submit your little mini brief, because you're not going to write out a big brief, but your little mini brief explaining what that is. And then you'll in that brief show pictures on that page. Basically the same date, same time, same pen, same signature, all that kind of stuff.
And just lawyer them.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what we're doing right now. that's why we have the show tonight. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, indeed.
I just got.
Yeah.
You just taught me how to lawyer.
There you go. Use it wisely. Catch
Okay.
some fish. Yeah.
And then when they take my little lawyer hope and dream and smash it to the ground, what do I do?
Yeah, then reach back out to me. We'll do another live, and then basically I'll walk you through it. I mean, what I might have to do is look at essentially what you create, but spend time in the creation. Make it easy for them
Okay.
to
Yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But if you have, go ahead.
And in the meantime, my daughters that they got, they said that I didn't receive anything in the mail saying that the appeal was denied or accepted, or that the waiver was denied or accepted. But when I called, they said that it wasn't. I said, but I filed a waiver too because I don't make enough money to be able to pay my bills and get this taken out. And they said that because of the stupid 8011 that it wasn't until October or whatever. I don't know. It's just like a circle of mind games, and I don't know what the hell I was trying to say. Damn it.
Summarize it. Give me a question.
Oh, they said the waiver. They said the waiver was that it wasn't. They weren't going to do anything with it. But shouldn't I still have gotten something in the mail at least?
Yeah, if they're not going to do anything, you have to get a legal notice from them. They can't just be like, hocus pocus, we don't care.
Because they put me on hold twice, saying they talked to whoever's in charge, whoever the guy's name they told me was in charge of my appeals and waivers. But that was like 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't received anything. So that doesn't make sense.
Look, give them another week. Reach back out to them. Explain to them the evidence you have. If they still give you crap, then file a complaint with OIG, and basically begin the process there. The Office of Inspector General. Because look, if you use their pen and it's got two dates of the same date. Same scribble, same style of pen, same whatever. And remember, you can break.
And
down
I was
pens.
there.
Yeah, I mean, there's ball
like,
points, there's gel points, there's roller balls, there's fountain pens. And look, if that's their style of pen, that pen's going to write the exact same way with the exact same ink. So that's going to be, if look, you have a document that's dated on the same time with the same looking everything. That's pretty darn good proof that it was submitted within a timely fashion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And as far as them not doing anything about the appeal or the waiver, is that just like this office? I just had to transfer back to this office because I moved, and I was so glad to get away from it because they have like a vendetta against me, like personally.
Which office?
Because I've had some issues. The Concord.
Okay. So look, if you're having a lot of specific office issues, you can always reach out to the regional office for that particular area and ask for them to basically jump in and go ahead and interact with the program and get the local field office to assign a manager. Because once you have a manager on the claim, they're going to have to come up with a solution and then report that solution back to the regional field office.
Okay. Because like they wouldn't even let me talk to like supervisors in the past. They said the supervisor wouldn't talk to me, and like I just don't understand why they hate me there. But all right. And there's no way to get like transferred to another like principal's office or whatever.
To get transferred to a different field office, you basically have to
move.
Get a higher up, like a regional field office would have to enact that or do that. And the other thing is you'd have to move, otherwise you'd have to move.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's kind of the bottom line. They want you to deal with that FO, but if you can prove bias, like if you can, record some of this information showing that, hey, these people, they just don't want to deal with it, then they're going to take that recording at the regional field office and fast track your thing to be completed in a happy way so that you don't go all the way up to OIG. Because remember, OIG is the nanny that spanks the local FO and regional FO. So, at the end of the day, all the lawyers on behalf of the SSA, the big time lawyers, they live up in the OIG area. So
yeah, but aren't they all trying to like spank us? Like in in the long run,
people get this idea that the SSA is inherently biased against them. I mean, to some degree, after you work there a long enough period, it would be hard not to be biased against the claimants who are calling in and screaming and demanding and yada yada. It would be difficult not to have that in you. But the reality is that the SSA, OIG, they generally try to do the right thing, because if they don't do the right thing, they get sued by somebody like me representing a client, and then all of a sudden we get money and they lose money. So
okay. And I emailed you a couple of weeks ago. Is there anything that we can do to like for the signatures to like get more signatures, because we're not really pushing as many as I thought? Is there anything that like we can do? For like, I mean, other than sharing it and putting it out there, like, so can we door knock or what can we just go to nursing homes?
So basically, the reality is this: the extension of getting cost of living adjustment signatures is limited to the, my channel being able to reach out to people. And my channel has never been as popular. I mean, remember, it took like 8 years for anybody to even give a damn about this channel. But the reality is my channel is not as popular as all those other channels that do all those like fourth stimulus or crazy new fun, wow, amazing, yada, yada, all those sorts of things. And the sad thing
I love warm fuzzies, but there's cold pricklies in the real world. So.
Right. And that's, but I think what's happening too is that this channel is starting to grow and grow and grow more, because people are starting to just want to know what's actually going on. They would rather feel the sting of the pain, than actually sit there eating, mental thoughts of gumdrops and bubblegum. And, as a result of that, I think
looking at their empty fridge.
Well, but that's it. People are not happy right now, and politicians get voted out, or at least they used to, when people are unhappy. I was amazed at how well the Democrats did with the House and the Senate. People are like, oh, the House, oh my goodness, blah, 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 blah. I was amazed they did as well as they did, and a lot of that is, it comes down to who's the leader of it. Is, the president, has he been a good president so far? But
but I mean,
right, I know it's not exactly a full tilt approach of presidency, but it's the bottom line.
There wasn't a red tsunami. That's good, but
I mean, what amazed me was that people who are extremely limited in funds were somehow okay with the economy being what it was, because to vote for a Republican would be heresy. And so what I think I've realized from this last election was that it doesn't really matter how bad things are. It just matters how badly you can scare them about something that they need. And that was the main function we saw from the blue side, which was, if you vote,
I think the Roe Wade was a big part of it too.
Right. And here's my second grudge about this system. I think that the best Democrats that are out there are not in the news. And I think that the best Democrats that exist are not being acknowledged. I think that when it comes down to the best Democrats being at the highest positions, I can assure you they're not. I can definitively assure you they are not. But at the same time, I think what's important to understand is that if Democrats were really doing what they wanted to do, right, to make Americans basically, have lots of food, have lots of medication, be able to afford things, be able to afford a vacation once a year, twice a year, maybe. If they really intended for those things to happen, they would do a lot more reaching across the aisle, because I expect from their party more of the ability to say, here's the future of where we want to go. We'll reach across the aisle to the Republicans. I don't expect the Republicans to reach across the aisle to the Democrats. I just don't. And maybe that's wrong of me, but I just don't expect that. But I will say this, I expect the Democrats to reach across the aisle. And I didn't see any of that. So from my perspective, what I would like to see going forward is a new lineup of politicians. Don't care what their age is, but just I would like the old, what we're trying to achieve to be backed up by how we're going to do it in a responsible way, which seems to be not what politicians do.
It's like everyone's gotten like so complacent and focused on just their own
survival. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's disgusting. They're not focused on our survival, which is what they need to be focused on.
It is interesting.
If everyone survives, then
look, the reality of this thing is a lot of life is politics. If you look at it at the very big levels, right? You look at the politics of the big levels. If you look at the Russia-Ukraine situation, we don't get involved because we don't want war directly with Russia, because two nuclear nations.
But we're involved.
Yeah, but we're super involved. But two nuclear nations going at it, that's a bad deal. But what we're using is Ukraine as a buffer. So I get it. I get why we're doing that. Ukraine, obviously, lots of fraud, lots of illegal stuff there, but bottom line is we're using them as a buffer, just like we've done with many Asian-related countries, many Latino-related countries, Spanish-related countries.
And we're there. We just don't talk about being there, too. So it's like a whole mind game.
Of course. So, but the bottom line here is that, these are all just forms of politics. Instead of just getting it done, they've got to take the long road to get to the end of what they actually want. And the unfortunate thing is that Americans somehow along that long road get forgotten. And the problem with that is that America promised, whether it was in the 1930s, 50s, or 70s with retirement SSDI or SSI, that basically these people would be taken care of. And the whole idea was that these are people who shouldn't have to work or are not capable of working. So when you look at it from the base fundamental, like you take it to its biggest, largest, like here's the general picture, right, of where this whole ship is sailing. They said to us, we're going to tax you more, but this tax only goes to your upkeep, that of your survivors, your widows, and we're not going to touch it. And we're not going to amend it, and we're not going to change the algorithms of how we calculate it, and we're not going to abuse your cost of living adjustment as a result of inflation. And what they did was they basically went ahead and they lied. They lied about all those things. They changed it, they modified it, they greenspanned it, they everything did, and everybody is now in a situation where they can't afford to go to Walmart. So, shit hit the fan, and it sucks because it's all over the room. And there's no fix to it. And it's dry and dusty because there was no rain. And now we don't have the diesel to spread it around. So, it's just one of those, like, how did they get this off point? And the reality is this: green energy is to some degree a bit of a farce, because what we run into is that the traditional solar panel, the traditional this or that within that field, right? If we have a wind turbine or whatever, all of those forms of electricity are completely and utterly unimportant, useless, and shouldn't spend any money on them compared to thermos bottle cold fusion, which is essentially what a better version of the sun. The sun is a hot fusion, right? And then somewhere inside it may be cold fusion. But the bottom line is that's what we should be attaining. And we have a lot of researchers out there that could be funded to push this thing farther. We have labs in France that are really taking big steps with it. But until we have that thermos bottle, something that is the size of a Yeti cup, where inside it you have a cold sun, which we are getting closer and closer to. Look, we have computers that can literally transfer in under a second the entire bandwidth of the internet at this point. Everything on the internet, 1 second through a supercomputer. So the point is, a lot of these things.
But does cold fusion make as much money?
Well, and that's what this comes down to. Tesla was killed off because he had great ideas to change the world for the benefit of the people, and that will get you killed. Which is why I
How are you
sometimes
feeling
have to
about
be
Twitter
careful.
now?
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. But the bottom line is this. Look, when you're able to produce water in space, from space, when you're able to produce water from seawater at high levels or from the atmosphere on Earth in high levels, when you're able to go ahead and have unlimited energy, when you're able to have unlimited food, all of a sudden, the things, right, that we need as human beings, the things that these politicians have promised us their entire political career and delivered nothing, right? All these things come to us through technology. They don't come to us through politicians. Politicians are attacking Elon purely because he represents the thing that proves them wrong. And so at the end of the day, what we have to focus on is, when are we going to have the technology to help us? Because the politicians aren't going to do it. The Republicans and the Democrats, they're not going to achieve these things. It's the technology that gives us freedom. Look, let me give you a perfect example of that. Let's say we took the internet away from you for the rest of your life. You would feel a loss of freedom. Now,
I would lose my mind for about 12 hours.
Right. The Constitution does not afford you that freedom of the internet. But, if we said for the rest of your life, we're going to remove the Constitution, you can't, or we're going to remove the internet, you can't have it. It's not protected under the Constitution. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, sure, some of the stuff you might have posted on there might be protected. But, the bottom line is everything else gone. You can't access it going forward. You can't do anything with it going forward. That's it. That would be a massive withdrawal of what you would consider to be your freedom. And so inherently, at some point, 70s, 80s, the internet kind of birthed into its existence, first as a military design and then into a social platform, and then the comms, which are the commercial. And so as a result of that, you now have a mass web of information that can come at you at all times. It's also something that highly manipulates individuals, which is used in an immense way for a lot of things. Obviously elections are some of them. But at the end of the day, if you took away the internet, you would hate how you approach information going forward, because everything would seem too slow. It would seem not detailed enough. You couldn't access things to figure out how to fix something. It just would be terrible.
Yeah, but my house would always be clean.
Oh, sure. Yes, true. Facebook would be non-existent. You wouldn't be, going on there to post pictures of, whatever. And I hear you. But look, the next thing is, once we have the technology to go to another planet, we have to have the technology to basically create things, water,
It's scary though, because should we even be allowed to go to another planet, considering we're not even,
we have
I don't
to.
know.
If we don't go to another planet, then we've killed off all freedom that human beings are likely to achieve. See, going to another planet is important because, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, we can mine stuff out of the planet. Awesome. Yay. Yeah, that's the cool part. But the really good part, the part that matters beyond all of that, remember Space Constitution, the thing I was working on, the nonprofit, the thing that matters the most about that is it requires technology to create raw materials that are used to keep us alive, whether it's air, food, water, whatever.
That are in space, that are on these planets, so we can mine them.
Well, we don't
make
even
more
necessarily
technology.
we don't need to mine them sometimes. They've already figured out how to create a protein powder out of the material that's on the surface of Mars, which means that you can bake. So the point here is this: once we have that technology, then the politicians promising us cheap food and lots of food and money worth a lot and things like that, well, all that crap starts to die away because the promises aren't needed, and the promises they tell us every time that they stand on the podium directly before us promising us the world, well, it's all BS at that point because we don't need them. So, look, if we were a country of solutions, we would essentially have a very different government, but we're not. We're a country of needs, which means we have to have a Senate and a House and a president. because we're a country of needs. It was designed on us addressing needs. But when we don't have those needs, and let me tell you the final thing.
But they're not being addressed. Like, no one's needs are being addressed. They're met, and like no one's getting angry about it. And I like don't understand what it's going to take for people to like get angry and vocalize that they're.
I mean, look, the final thing is this: once a force shield, right, a shield around a person, digital energy, is able to be created that protects somebody, the government loses all power. Once you have a force shield that can stop a nuclear blast, once you have a force shield that can stop somebody from taxing you or stealing your ship, it's all over. The government ceases to have relevance at that point. Once the technology's out there to make food, water, and you get a force shield, like this force field rather, or whatever. Once you have that,
Yeah.
It's over. They can't reach you. You're not available. They call you. Your phone's
That's
busy.
endgame.
It's endgame. That's it. Then people will actually achieve freedom in a way that has never been seen before. But anyways, I got to keep taking these claimants.
Okay.
But
Yep.
I'll catch you a little bit later.
Thank you for talking.
Yeah, you
I
have
appreciate
a wonderful,
everything.
wonderful day. You got it.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Oh, I hit the wrong button there. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, perfect. Hi, we are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name throughout this process, Attorney Walter Hnot. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a quick little one, and that's I receive about $950 VA benefits for disability,
Okay.
and I just filed my SSI, and they started it on November 2nd, and I'm way past the age of getting the SSI, so I'm qualified 100%.
How old are you?
I'm 67 or 66 and 8 months.
Okay.
And it was 66 and 4 months that it was supposed to be the qualification for me. Anyhow, can I get both? Since I am getting the $950 right now, VA disability for 50%, but I didn't file for any disability with SSI.
All right. First question I have is, did you have your 40 quarters of coverage available to you?
Do I have what?
40 quarters of coverage? Like, were you able to get onto retirement? Like, what happened there?
Oh, I just, it was a hearing problem. I'm a veteran.
No, I got you.
And
But here's the thing. Like, so some people, the SSA will screw up and not realize that they had retirement benefits available to them because they had 40 quarters of coverage. And a lot of military people, they have their 40 quarters of coverage because they served so many years, yada, yada, yada. They've got enough, right? But because remember.
Oh, yes, I do. The 40, yes, I do have that 40, yes.
Okay, so are you, I mean, now here's the thing. When you're on SSI at 62 years old, they transition you directly onto retirement. So why are you still on SSI? Or let me ask another way. Are you getting VA benefits plus retirement and now you're seeking SSI? Or what's the combination?
No, I'm just on VA benefits. I just filed for SSI.
All right, do me a favor. Go ahead. All right, what is your month like, when you hit full retirement?
Full retirement was 66 and 4 months.
All right, how much is your full retirement check?
1,754.
All right, so you're not going to be able to get SSI.
SSI. Of course, they're not finished with it, so they can't give me the exact amount.
So here's the deal: if you got a retirement check around $1,700, they're not going to give you SSI. You're going to be on VA benefits, permanent and total, and you're going to have your retirement Title II claim, and you're just going to get a retirement check. That's your civilian and your VA P&T, which is basically your military. So bottom line is you're just going to end up with a retirement check and your military VA, but you're not going to be able to get SSI on top of that.
Oh, so can I stop my VA because the SSI is higher than my VA?
Why are your VA benefits so low when you're permanent and total?
Oh, I'm not permanent. I'm just 50% for my just for my hearing.
Okay, all right. So now wait a minute. Did you have a VA attorney work on this? Like try to get it up to?
No.
100? All right, man. Go get it.
No, I just been in through tests and stuff, and I talked to the VA, and that's what they ended up giving me.
All right, man. Go get a VA attorney. I mean, I do that stuff on the side here and there. I mostly do obviously disability benefits, SSDI, SSI benefits, but go get a VA attorney. They'll be able to, work with that to try and get you a higher percentage amount. And then from there, you'll get, your 3,000 plus yada yada plus your retirement. You should be good to go at that point. And then at that point, you'll be set. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't been in the military long enough to get a retirement from the military either.
Okay, so yeah, there's no pension option there. I'd still reach out. I mean, I do represent a couple, but I mostly do SSDI, SSI. I represent them because basically they're buddies of mine, and they wanted me to specifically work on it. I said, okay, fine. You can always call me, and I can always kind of walk you through some of the basics of it. I try to keep things less VA, more disability, civilian on this channel, but I really need to start doing more VA because frankly, I have this whole write-up list of laws and changes. But then again, I have a whole write-up list right here of the new SSRs that are coming out from the SSA in 2022 that'll affect for 2023. So do this. If you do have extra questions, you can always kind of reach out to me. But your plan right now is to get your 50% up to 100 and then also get your retirement, get that rolling at your full retirement age. That way you don't get any penalty for taking 66 and 4 months in, or whatever it was for the months in.
Yeah, I'm past the 66 and 4 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, but your retirement and then get your VA benefits up, and you should be good to go. Because if you're getting 1,700 retirement, they're not going to give you any SSI.
Yeah, the SSI is that's what I'm talking about. The SSI is 1754.
No.
I haven't got it. I haven't got it yet. That was on the website.
So SSI is only basically $841. There's
no SSI would be 1,754, and my VA right now that I'm getting is 950.
Are you saying that they're going to add it on top of your VA, and then the total amount is that?
Right.
Okay, cool. Because if you were saying SSI benefits are 1,700, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Look, the moment you file, and I mean, here's the thing. If you get approved for SSI, they're going to push you directly onto retirement because you're over 62. So the whole thing you're doing it's moot. It's not going to end up being what you think it is.
What I'm trying to ask is can I get my SSI and my VA that I'm getting right now?
No.
I'm getting a VA.
Because
you can't get both.
They'll instantly transfer you, since you have 40 quarters of coverage, over to retirement. So you'll get your retirement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the moment they look at this thing for SSI and they look at an approval, they'll immediately force you to go on to retirement.
On the SSI retirement?
No, it's RSDI. RSDI is your retirement, Social Security Disability Insurance. So it's called RSDI. So SSI is Title 16, which is a totally different grouping of law than retirement, which is Title 2.
Okay. So best thing for me to do is hit a lawyer and see how it works with a lawyer. Is that how I should do it?
What I would do if I were you is I would file for retirement immediately, since you're full retirement at this point. And then I would go ahead
with the SSI. That's what you mean, right?
No.
File for retirement.
No, retirement is not SSI. So you're going to call up the SSA or just go online and file for retirement.
I already did it with the SSA SSA. I filed for that, and they started to claim on the November 2nd.
Yeah, once
they're not done with it yet.
Yeah. Do you know what your retirement amount is going to be?
Well, when I looked online, it was 1,754, but they're not through with it, so now I can't see it anymore.
Okay. Once you find out, basically, if it's over $900, they're not going to be giving you any supplemental with the SSI benefits. But bottom line is this: go get a VA attorney to work on it, and then get your retirement settled, and that's going to be your main two checks that you receive. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. And how do I find a VA attorney?
You can search them online. You can always call me, during the regular 9 to 5. The firm isn't open tomorrow because, Thanksgiving and then the Friday and everybody takes off, and nobody at the firm wanted to work because, Friday, yada, yada. In fact, Wednesday, it was tough because we just didn't have all the usual staff. So I was stuck doing a lot of phone calls, but which I actually like. I like doing phone calls. But point is this, tomorrow we won't be open, but, basically Monday come around. Mondays are tough because lots and lots of people call in, but if you reach out, ask me some questions or whatever, I can always kind of work with you and help you out and kind of get you rolling in the right direction. Yeah. Or you could just search a VA attorney online too, because I do VA benefits. I'm certified to do all that. But the bottom line is my firm is not focused directly on the practice of VA benefits. I do it because I have some buddies that want it and they want me to handle it for them. And I handle it for them because, to be honest, there's little things that VA disability firms do that kind of I'm not for. And as a result of that, they're in a worse situation than most. So I did the claim, even though I didn't have time to. So I took even more of my time, which is, as you guys always see, me making videos in the middle of the night because I'm always working through the day. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your help, and I'll let you get on with some other calls.
Perfect, good sir. You have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Perfect. Okay, guys. So, all right, we're going to take, it's 9:31. We're going to take one more phone call. Here we go. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live. Remember to use a fake name throughout this process. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions with you? Go ahead.
Specific question, and it's love.
Oh, perfect. Go ahead.
The question I have is, I had to go through federal court,
Sure.
and because I had a jerky judge that actually had a 17% approval rating. And he basically pinged me because my primary doctor didn't give my diagnosis a name. And where I was working, I had it where I can just go to the specialist myself. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to go to my primary. So he dinged me on that. And then I went and did the appeal with the appeal council. They was like, oh, he did nothing wrong. But so I took it to the federal level. The federal level actually saw it the way I saw it, mm-hmm. because everything that he said that he dinged me on, I had in my files, and they was giving him exhibit for exhibit, mm-hmm. and they couldn't understand, like, how dare you, deny her because of this. And so they basically told him, hey, you do this over. Mm-hmm. And so he up there, originally had the case in February for the remand. Mm-hmm. And he, because his specialist wasn't there, he up there pushed it to May.
Okay.
So the specialist basically said, oh, she had a voluminous amount of records, so I didn't go through all that. I just only looked at the independent study that she had done, which was from 2021. And he said, oh, and they said that she's 100% disabled. I'm like, wait, what? How dare he just only go by that? He didn't even look at my records.
Yeah, but that's common.
So
a lot of
they actually did partial.
Yeah.
He up there did a partial approval.
Yeah, he moved the alleged onset date.
Right. So, and I feel that I'm being ripped off because of that. So, but then when I was speaking to my local office, they said, oh, yeah, they reversed that partial to a fully favorable. I'm like, huh? But no one else can see what the local office can see. And I'm like, okay, well, when should I receive it? So I received the approval letter on the 15th of September. Mm-hmm. I was told by Chicago office. Well, first of all, at the local office, I had a gentleman lie for 3 weeks straight that he was working on my case. Come to find out, my case was never at the local office. It went straight from the ALJ to the procurement processing unit.
Yeah.
And no one can seem to reach those people to find out, because my house is in foreclosure. I have an 85-year-old bedridden mom, mm-hmm. that, has vascular dementia. Mm-hmm. I can barely walk. And she only get her, her retirement, which is basically nothing. And I have to pay someone just to be able to come in here and lift her for me, because I can't, my back and, and then on top of it, I had no food for 3 months because the government messed that up. So I'm like calling these people like, hey, I'm in dire straits here. I have nothing. And no one can tell me anything. So I finally get someone in the Chicago office, and that gentleman was like, okay, on the 15th, you should have some, because they have 60 days or they can be sanctioned.
I said this to other people when I called back on the 17th. They was like, "Oh, we never heard of that. Oh, we don't know. Oh, we never heard of that. Oh, it's 60 business days now."
Well, yeah.
I'm like, what?
There's also different rules at the regional level relating to how fast they have to respond. They even had that on the national level for the mysocialsecurity.gov website. And they made the coders take it down that they were responding so much time at the DDS level because they could not meet those standards. But so, okay, just to summarize, had a tough percent passage rate ALJ in New Jersey, went up to AC Appeals Council, agreed. You went up to basically federal district court, remand to AC remand back to ALJ gives you a partially favorable. Then somewhere in there, AC probably grabbed it and took another look at it because it was something that they weren't happy with. They did a full approval, fully favorable from the original protective filing date or whatever your alleged onset date was. And then they sent that off to the local FO. The local FO sent you a letter in the mail. Did the letter or the brief that you received in the mail say partially favorable or fully favorable?
Partially. I never received anything that said fully favorable.
All right. So then basically there might be an issue there because until you get that fully favorable in the mail, you're still stuck with partially favorable. Now, what was your original alleged onset date? And then what was the alleged onset date that the judge moved it to?
The original onset date was 2018, July 2018, and he did February 2021. And that was the date of the letter of the independent study was February 2021. Okay.
All right. So what proof did you have in 2018, 2019, 2020 that was better than 2021?
I had MRIs. I had nerve study tests. I had operations. I've had so many spine surgeries. I have so much wire and screws in my spine till it's not even funny. And had 2 knee replacements. They don't tell you that once you have your back done, that your body is never the same again. I thought the first time I was like, "Oh, that was a miracle." I'm like, I'm doing great, and then here my knees give out because everything's out of whack. So when I got my back done, it messed my knees up, and then when I get my knees done, it messed my back up.
Yeah, there's the one side, the other side. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So now I can't even bend my right knee, and I have neuropathy in my right foot. And I can't even feel 4 of my toes. And the last surgery I had, in 2018, that surgery, the doctor, he kept saying, "Oh, well, it's because we went down to your sacral," but I never got feeling back.
Just for the viewers, when you say lumbosacral, you mean like the area, your lowest point of your back, which is like your hips,
right?
Because a lot of people don't know what that is. They know like higher up areas, yeah.
Right, he went down to the sacral, the low. And I just was like, okay, I was in so much pain, and I couldn't understand, like, hey, what's going on? Like, how come I can't feel my foot? He goes, "Oh, that's normal. It'll come back." Never came back, and come to find out, he was like, I'm telling him, like, and on top of that, now I can't hold my urine. I can't even tell when I have to go. Sometimes, like if I'm sitting, I can't tell when I have to go until I stand up. So I start having all these issues, like, oh, these issues aren't anything from what I've done. That's from the doctor. And come to find out, when I went to do the nerve test, he didn't get the nerve that he was supposed to get.
I have a question. I'm assuming in my brain, I just assumed this. So I'm sorry about that, but because I missed it. You were represented by an attorney, right? You went there with an attorney to argue your alleged
The very first time I had an attorney, do you realize she said, "Oh, this never happened before"? She basically said that judge up there denied me because I wasn't destitute enough. Because I had
some of them do that. Some of them do that. We got one in Orlando who won't approve anybody under 50. Some of them do stuff like that where they just have their lines,
Because he asked, he was like, what is this? I was like, it's from the severance package because they downsized my job. And they gave me, I had been there 27 years.
Yeah.
And he was like, And she was like, oh, he didn't like that you received that.
It's weird, right? And it's because they see so many low-income people that they just...
Right, so now here I am destitute, about to lose stuff, and still nothing. And then I really have other people at the local office. They was like, "Wow, he really didn't like you, huh?" When I went back in front of him, he says, "Oh, I see that you didn't like my decision, so I won't be saying anything to you. I'll be talking to your attorney and the specialist and the vocational expert." I was like, "What?"
So it's not uncommon. So one of the largest groups of people that I see bias against, specifically when it comes to, for example, having too much or a big monthly check coming in, are the VA people. When the VA people have, $3,000+ coming in a month just from their VA check, the judges look at that and go, well, they already got that. There's a lot of that going on too. But look, I hear you. You're going to have to go ahead and appeal it. So get your money coming in and then appeal it. So one of the things you can do is you can toll it by sending in a notification of local SSA field office for appeal documentation. That way they get all the payment processing stuff done. You get paid, you get money. And then, you toll it because you're waiting for them to send you appeal documentation, which gives you more than the 60 days. And then at that point, you can go ahead and appeal it. Now, they reserve the right to reverse it. But if you've got good evidence, you better appeal it.
Okay. Yeah, because the doctor, he actually said this is from a fall from 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've had issues. I have been working through those issues from 2012 up until 2018, where I actually was out on disability. So, and they was like, "Oh, just come in," and I because they have released me from the hospital, and they was like, "You don't have to come in and work," So I had the doctor return me to work so that at least I can get my severance pay. Otherwise, I would have had nothing.
I know. Look, you're telling me what I hear all the time, and that's what frustrates me. It's like, the worst part about disability benefits for civilians is that you basically have to go broke to get on the program, which is not how it's supposed to be. This was supposed to be a program where it took 2 to 3 months for them to figure it out at the initial filing level, whether to approve or deny. And then there were so many people on the program that the government changed tracks. And now the thing is, okay, we got to look at this thing. How do we deny more of these claims? How do we close the doors more of the courtroom? So what we run into is the problem of how are they going to reduce the likelihood of a person being approved? And they keep changing the rules, which is part of the process. And 2017 was a big one with Commissioner Saul. So I hear you. I hear you. It's just.
And so the second attorney I got, now that they took it to, because I originally had one and he retired, and so I guess the partner of the firm, he took the case, and he just whatever. He has not even called me.
That's not uncommon for the upper level disability attorneys. Like, I'm certified to do the upper levels, and I do some of those, but I got to tell you, the ones that just take in those claims, their ability to call people back is legendary, and I mean terrible at a legendary level. But
he made sure that when the judge was saying he was going to touch his money, he made sure he got that paperwork in there.
Yeah.
He didn't even call me to say, "Hey, yeah, you got a partial approval." Nothing. I was like, wow.
I don't know what to tell you. Look, but here's the thing. Sometimes we send out claims just to attorneys that handle the upper level stuff. I got to be honest with you. Even the client, they'll call me back and they'll say, "Hey, I reached out for 3 weeks. Nobody's called me back from this other law firm." And so then I reach out to them. And then 3 days later, they call me back and say, "Oh, we'll call them." I don't get it. I don't get it. But you know what I mean? But at the other side, well, I do get it, because here's the thing. If all you do is respond to calls from 9 to 5, that's all you'll do. Now, I work from, basically like 8 a.m. until usually around 1 to 2 a.m. And so, I do calls during the 9 to 5. And then after that, I do the other stuff. So I get it. Like, there's just not enough time to do the calls, interact with the people, keep the people up to date, and then do the legal work. I get it. And then the cost of disability law, disability lawyers are losing money even on claims that they win at this point, because the cost to hire people, keep all the records, interact with the judges, go to the hearing, all that stuff is more than we're getting paid to do these claims. Right. So I get it. Like, I get it in that regard, but
Do you think having us getting a senator or congressman involved would help, or it's just like that's a moot point?
It's a mixed bag. Here's what they do. They send out a letter to the SSA. The SSA responds and says, okay, well, we'll send you a case update. They send them a case update with a little mini explanation. And then the senator or House rep sends it directly to you with their explanation in a letter. And then they'll tell you, hey, we're going to update you in so many days. So then in 60 days from that point, the SSA reaches back out to the senator or the House rep and then gives them an update. And then the senator or House rep sends that notice to you. And usually it says, everything's okay, everything's good. We're going to close this out on our end. So, I mean, if you just want a status update twice, you know what I mean? Then it'll give you a status update twice. But bottom line is, and it'll be spread out. But the bottom line is they don't actually do any of this like fighting on behalf of your rights and changing the system. Like none of that shit happens at that level. Like, so I don't know why people, and I see these other channels from non-attorneys and, these people that are like, join my fan club, my disability thing. And, I see these other people talking about it. I'm just like, dude, it's blatant lies. That's giving people hope. And I'll tell you this, nothing gets more views on YouTube than hope. And they know how to sell it. And I sell the truth, which does not sell very well. So,
because I'm actually terrified. I'm like of losing my home that I actually worked so hard for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not just me. If it was just me by myself, but I have my mom. And I'm like, all my life she had kept a roof over my head. And I'm like, here now, she's dependent on me. And I'm like, in this situation, that's not my fault.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Look.
And no one can even answer me like, when can I at least get an award letter?
Right.
Nothing.
This is what I would say about it. You need to go ahead and receive your benefits, and then go ahead and file an appeal to appeals council again to seek an alleged onset date. But make sure you make an alleged onset date brief for the appeals council to dig their teeth into.
Okay. All right. I thank you for listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it's just this. I just never heard of anything taking this longer, and everyone else like, oh no, you should have been had that. People that I know that that's disabled, and they're like, no, you should have that at least 60 days. And my 60 days were November 15th.
Yeah, but you got to remember something too. Like, and this is important. Everybody's different. Like when people are like, "Oh, I should have had your benefits in 2 months." Everybody's different. Somebody that's about to die in a week, yeah, sure, they'll get their benefits in 2 months. But it's everybody's different. Every type of claim is different. You had to go all the way to appeals council and district. Look, I've seen claims go all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. That's 15 years to get it back to the hearing.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You do the same, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye. So, guys, I'm not going to take any more phone calls because I'm kind of tired at this point. Are there any questions that I can do a quick answer for in the chat section right over to the right here? Let's see. Let's see. But anyway, we're going to miss notes guest tonight. Oh, yeah. So, Valerie Land, the security expert, unfortunately has COVID, like super bad. And he's been sick for like a couple of weeks, in and out of the country, and he got it. I don't know if you guys have seen what's going on with China right now with COVID, but well, actually, I can't really go into all that stuff. But the bottom line is he's sick. So, anyways, happy Thanksgiving. And kind of the bottom line is this. If you guys have any questions, catch up with me next Thursday. I'll be doing a couple of videos tomorrow. And I really, really appreciate it that on your holiday, you kind of were hanging out with me. So thank you so much for hanging out. Please remember to like, subscribe, leave 5-star reviews. And also, bottom line is I do want to do a COLA lawsuit, cost of living adjustment lawsuit, to basically get people a higher cost of living adjustment. That's really important to me. So if you want to go ahead and sign basically the change.org petition, I'm going to use that to join up with other law firms to go ahead and do this lawsuit, because to be honest with you, it's such a massive, mega thing that my law firm and maybe even another law firm would not be large enough to even handle something like this. That's how big that type of lawsuit is, to change the federal government's calculations and punish them for their algorithm modified, whatever you want to call it, situation where you guys get less and less and less each year every time inflation occurs. I mean, there were even some years where you got 0% increase when there was clearly inflation increase. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful night. I'm just checking to see if there's any more questions. Yay, Big Tone going to federal. Very cool. I'm glad to come in, but I came just right. Okay, no worries. Danny, no worries. I'll catch you a little bit later. Guys, have a wonderful night and a happy, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.